You ever stop to wonder why you blush when you're embarrassed? Or why your fists just clench up when you get mad? It feels automatic, right? For ages, we've been told that emotions are these wild, irrational things we need to tame. But what if that's completely wrong? What if they're actually a super smart, ancient system designed for our survival? Well, today we're going to dive into that hidden story.
I mean, really, think about it. Goosebumps when you hear an amazing piece of music? What's that about? It's not like it's keeping you warm. Or your hair standing on end when you get a sudden fright? Kinda useless today, right? So, why do we still have these weird, involuntary reactions? To find the answer, we have to go back in time. Way back, over 150 years ago.
Yeah, we're kicking things off with what you could call evolutionary echoes. These are like the ghosts of our past, living on in our modern day reactions. We're going to uncover the deep ancestral logic behind why we do what we do when we feel things, a logic that's been shaped over millions of years. So, the guy who first really dug into this puzzle was, you guessed it, Charles Darwin. Yeah, the same Darwin of evolution fame. Long after he shook the world with his ideas on natural selection, he turned his brilliant mind to our emotions. He put out this incredible book, and his big idea was pretty revolutionary for the time. He said our expressions, the way we show emotion, weren't some divine gift. Nope, they were inherited directly from our animal ancestors. So here's the core of his argument. Darwin called these expressions vestigial habits, and that's just a fancy way of saying they're leftovers from our evolutionary past. Think of them like behavioral fossils. They're actions that were once absolutely critical for survival, but now they just hang around as these automatic reflexes. Let's get into some examples, because this is where it gets really cool. You know that little sneer people do where they curl their upper lip? Darwin said that's basically a watered-down version of an animal baring its fangs, getting ready to bite. Or how about crying? He figured it started with babies screaming their lungs out. The tears were originally just there to protect their eyes. See, they all started as practical, physical actions. And check this out. This is what made his work so groundbreaking. Darwin was a pioneer. He was one of the very first scientists to use photographs to actually study and document these expressions. I mean, look at these images from his book. He was capturing these fleeting moments to prove his point, that these reactions are universal, they're biological, they're echoes of a past we all share. And wow, he was thorough. This table here just gives you a little taste of how deep he went. He connected blushing, hair standing on end, clenching your fists, all of it to specific emotions. And for each one, he traced it back to a practical, physical purpose. It was all about survival, looking bigger to scare off a threat, getting your body ready for a fight, you name it. Okay, so Darwin gave us the origin story, the why behind these reflexes. But that opens up a whole other can of worms, right? How do these physical things, like crying or a racing heart, actually become the feeling we call sadness or fear? For that piece of the puzzle, we need to bring in another heavyweight. And that would be William James. This guy basically took common sense and turned it completely upside down. Think about it. We usually assume we feel sad, and then we start to cry. James said, nope, you've got it backwards. He argued that we see something, our body has an automatic reaction, and our perception of that reaction, feeling the tears on our face, the lump in our throat, that is the emotion. So here's a simple way to look at it. Darwin gave us the why, the evolutionary backstory for these physical reactions. William James gave us the what. He said the actual feeling of those bodily changes right here in the present moment is the emotion. Put them together, and you get this incredibly powerful way of understanding our feelings. And this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn. Because what started out as a purely physical, individual survival reflex, well, it evolved. That hair standing on end to make an animal look bigger, it turned into a powerful social signal. Our emotions became this kind of social megaphone, an honest, hard-to-fake broadcast that tells everyone around you what's going on inside and what you might do next. So this leads to a massive shift in how we think about emotions. Forget seeing them as messy or irrational. Scientists now call them locally rational. And all that means is that they are super smart, highly adapted tools. They're designed to help us solve very specific problems in our immediate environment, whether that's getting away from danger or dealing with an injustice. They prepare us to act right here, right now. Okay, so emotions aren't crazy. They're rational tools. Let's talk about their biggest job of all, literally building our social world. I absolutely love this quote. Emotions are the grammar of social living. Just think about that.
If our society is like a language we all speak, then our emotions are the rules, the grammar, that make it all make sense. They're what allow us to do everything from navigating a first date to building alliances to making up after a fight.
So, how exactly does that work? Well, a really powerful idea is that emotions work as commitment devices. When you show real emotion, you're not just saying, "This is how I feel right now." You're making a promise. You're signaling a commitment to a future action. And that makes you predictable to others. And in any social group, predictability is the absolute bedrock of trust.
And this is a perfect breakdown of how that works. A flash of sympathy in your eyes? That's a promise that you're going to help. A look of genuine anger? That's you committing to fight an injustice. Even something like shame has a job. It signals to everyone that you know you messed up and you're committed to following the group's rules again. And love, well, love is the biggest commitment of all, right? It's a promise to care for someone else.
All right, so this ancient programming is still running the show in our 21st century lives. So let's bring this home and see how it all plays out in two places we all know well, at work and in our personal lives. Okay, so at work, many of us perform something called emotional labor. It's a term from sociologist Arlie Hochschild, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Think about a barista who has to be cheerful all day, or a nurse who needs to stay calm in a crisis. It's the job of managing your own feelings to make someone else feel a certain way. You're basically getting paid for your emotional performance.
But it turns out there's a huge difference in how we do this emotional work. On one hand, you have surface acting. That's just faking it, putting on a happy face when you're not feeling it. And trust me, that is exhausting. It leads straight to burnout. But then there's deep acting. That's where you actually try to change how you feel on the inside to match the emotion you need to show. It's way more authentic, and in the long run, it's a lot healthier. And that difference right there really gets to the heart of what we've been talking about. There's a massive gap between performing an emotion because your job demands it and the authentic, involuntary emotional commitments that build our real relationships. Those bonds, the ones that matter, they're built on those honest, ancient, hard-to-fake signals that Darwin was so fascinated by.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We spend so much time and energy trying to control our emotions, to push them down, to act rational. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if your emotions aren't a bug in your programming to be fixed, but actually your oldest, wisest, and most powerful tool for connecting with the world and with each other?